Imagine working as a nail tech during the day and then leading a double life of being a world-class poker champion. Well, that's exactly what Qui Nguyen was when he won the WSOP main and banked $8 million, all while being just a former nail technician. So let's look at this iconic play that took the world by storm and break it down together. Was it just sheer luck? Or did Qui really show the world that poker champions hide in plain sight? Let's find out together. Qui had entered the main title through a $1,000 satellite and fought through a sea of 6,737 participants to win the 2016 main event. Nguyen broke the mold by being the first person to go from absolute anonymity to superstar overnight for his historic win. With a $10,000 buy-in and an $8 million prize, the 2016 World Series was definitely no joke to compete in. Qui had moved up the ranks surely and steadily till he found himself at the finals table. People were trying to wrap their heads around how this completely unknown person reached the finals table and believed that he wouldn't last more than 2 rounds, but oh boy, how wrong they were. But as soon as the opening hand for the final round was dealt, everyone in the crowd realized that Qui was not here to play. He had established himself as the chip leader and, as such, had an immediate hold over the table. Cliff Josephy, who was also seated at the table, tried to raise Qui's initial hand to $3.2 million and set the tone. But Nguyen would not take this lightly. He established his dominance by re-raising to a staggering $8.25 million, causing enough fear in Cliff to immediately back out. But it's in the next hand that we see the tactics Qui employed to reach all the way to the finals. He starts off with pocket aces and raises to $5.7 million in response to Hollert's $2.3 million. Each of the remaining players then begins to fold out one after another till it's just Hollert and Qui. Hollert, holding an ace-queen, would think he had a chance as he went all in. But with the flop came a 4, a queen of spades, and a 5, putting Qui into the lead again. The turn then brought a 7, and the final river drew out a 4, sealing the deal and ejecting Hollert out of the game. With Hollert out of the game, Michael Ruane would see his luck turning up with pocket 8s, but little did he know that Qui, who was sitting across from him, was holding pocket 6s. In common fashion, the players would begin folding one by one till it was just Qui and Ruane in the round. Although both had pocket pairs, Ruane's 8s had a much higher chance of winning than Qui's 6s, and as such, he decided to bet $23.1 million and go all in. Tensions began running high amongst Team Qui as they felt he was probably running out of luck. He didn't have a choice this time. He had to go all in along with Ruane. And it would seem that was indeed the case, as Ruane then had his luck scale up, with the flop giving him an ace, a 7 and a 9. The turn would bring a queen, and the final river would bring a king, sealing the deal and making Ruane win the deal. Although Qui would lose a staggering 19% of his stack, he would come back stronger than ever and show that he didn't make it this far to lose it all. Ruane would end up getting a little in over his head nonetheless, and end up exiting at 4th place after he lost a very big hand against Josephy, where, although he drew a pair, a gut shot, and a flush draw against Josephy on the flop, it failed to get him ahead. This would end up being a fatally wounding blow to Ruane, who came down to just 25 big blinds. But the killing blow would be given by Qui himself. Ruane would move all in with his king-queen suited pair, while Qui held an ace-jack, a considerably better pair pre-flop. But Qui's tension about the flop turning the tides of the game would be dismissed once it happened, with the flop, turn, and river card, drawing up nothing but blanks for Ruane, making him go out at 4th place, cashing in $2,576,003. Qui, Vaio, and Josephy would lock horns in the next round with Vaio and Qui, sporting pocket 6s and 4s, respectively, while Josephy held an ace-queen pair. Josephy would 3-bet the bid to $9 million, which would signal to Vaio that it was time to clock out. Qui, feeling the biggest threat at the table was out, would raise and go all in. Qui's modus operandi is definitely based on feelings over math, and while many would call this foolish, it worked perfectly well for him. Josephine, winning a few huge hands against Vayo and Qui, would start feeling invincible, but soon enough, his luck would completely run out. Josephine would have a standard elimination with nothing out of the ordinary as we see him push his Queen 3 pair all in, but it would eventually get overpowered by Vayo's King 6 pair, and with nowhere to run, Josephine would eventually have to call it in, coming in third and leaving with an impressive $3,453,035. And now, it was down to the battle of the giants, with the seasoned pro Gordon Vayo on one side and the absolute wildcard Qui Nguyen on the other. With Qui holding an ace-5 and Vayo an ace-queen, their duel would begin. Vayo would call 7.9 million in response to Qui's 11.9 million raise. The flop would bring a king, jack, and 3, which would launch Vayo's chances of winning further up. Qui, seeing the flop, would bet another 17.7 million. The turn would bring a deuce of spades, and Qui, although becoming more and more short-stacked by the second, would bet another staggering $39.9 million. And this is exactly where we see how dangerous Qui becomes when backed into the corner. He puts the pressure on Vayo, although he's the one in the red, and Vayo buys into that threat and decides to fold, letting Qui take the win, although he had astronomically low chances of winning that hand. Qui's pressure would begin to affect Vayo, who saw his loss to Qui flashing before his eyes. In the next hand, Qui holding a Queen 5 and Vayo holding an Ace 9 would see Vayo initially taking the lead with the flop, where it would bring a 9, 10, and an ace, taking Vayo's hand from a doubtful hand to a much better one, while throttling Qui's. But then the turn would come, and it was a king, further killing Qui's chances of taking the lead. But the heat was on, and everyone waited eagerly for the river card, which would bring another king. This would flip the entire situation on its head and change the hand to be completely in Qui's favor. Qui, realizing he didn't have to bluff his aggression against Vayo anymore, would go all in, betting a staggering $106 million. Thankfully for Vayo, he wouldn't respond to this threat and decide to give in, letting Qui take the win while making sure he gets a chance to get back at the loose cannon. But sadly for Vayo, this would not be his day, as he was about to be wiped out by one of the most aggressive plays of the entire match. Qui would nonetheless take 2 more blows before finally delivering a fatal blow to Vayo. In the final showdown, Qui and Vayo would open with a King 10 and Jack 10. With Qui raising to $8.5 million, but Vayo finally feeling confident, would go all in. And even more surprising would be Qui calling the bet. But luck would begin to dwindle for Vayo as the flop came and revealed a king, handing top pair to Qui. The turn would bring a deuce, once again plummeting his chances, but the river card would be the nail in the coffin as it revealed a 3, giving Qui a straight draw, winning him the game and the prize pool of $8 million. If you enjoyed Qui's wildcard style, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to see more legendary moments on the world stage of poker. Now let us know in the comments, which hand in Qui's win did you enjoy the most?